that even today when you go back, like, man, I watched Prince of Egypt today, and I'm like, whew.
Those films were done so well, man. They hold up really well.
Yeah, I'm like, if only I could animate like that, you know. And this guy's had to hand draw that stuff and turn it around, and it's like, but it wasn't just about the hand drawing. It was about making this thing feel like it was alive.
The emotion they knew how to capture your emotion really well.
And if
for
I
the
had
viewer.
not got that review, I would never have hunted this stuff down. So slowly by slowly, I think my work started to get better. And then one of my teachers, David Latour, he liked my work ethic. And he was a really amazing instructor. I think most of my workflows that I picked up till this day, I got from David Latour.
Nice.
And I use them till this day. But I was starting to get better at animation, but I was still having a hard time until Michael McCarwich, Pixar directing animator / supervising animator. He's pretty famous right now and popular because of he teaches a lot. He teaches the Animation Collaborative. Michael McCarwich came to the academy and did a guest lecture where he animated in front of us for the first time. He talked about timing and spacing, and he used musical examples, and he animated right in front of us. He opened up a shot and it was like, hey, I'm gonna do a take based on just similar to a take that was in the Monsters Inc. movie. One of the students had modded a rig to kind of look like Sully, and Michael took it and animated in front of me.
Okay.
But throughout my schooling, a lot of my instructors worked in a way that's come to be known like stepped animation workflow. And I hated working that way, but as first, it didn't feel right for me.
It's different.
Right?
I think for those cinematic things, like even you've seen Spider-Verse, Spider-Man. They did Spider-Man on ones, and then they did the other people on twos, and so on to make them feel different, to make them feel more polished.
But
it's a different way of animating, definitely.
But here's the interesting thing. So most of my instructors were people who had worked in the industry a while ago. And the industry is always evolving.
Always changing.
And they specifically worked step. They worked a specific way. But unfortunately for me, they didn't differentiate or explain well that is how they worked. And they're teaching us what they know best. And some didn't put in the effort to figure out what made sense for me as a student. Right?
So it was like they just grouped everybody together as well.
And I always had a hard time. All the animations I did stepped as a student were nonsense. Not that stepped is a bad way to work. The point I'm trying to make here is that I just had a hard time learning it. You know what I mean? And I was struggling. And then when Michael did his demo, I remember the first time my introduction to Maya class, the way he animated on screen was the way I was just animating. I come from a heavily computer science family, so curves make sense to me.
Right.
Movements are just translations and rotations in time. Like if I'm raising my arm, it's just I can see this raising this much and this axis combined with this much to make this arc. That makes sense to me, right? And I saw him do this, and I remember he started a rebellion in my heart, because I was like, if that guy works at Pixar and he animates like that, I can work however I want.
That's hilarious.
It doesn't matter. What matters is what it looks like at the end.
Yeah.
That's what his demo taught me. And then all of a sudden, my quality jumped the biggest percentage ever. It went from being okay to I started getting my first compliments ever.
That's when you'll really get the personality added to it, because you'll start putting in poses. You won't be afraid of breaking joints, breaking the arcs and stuff to get the motion you want. And then when you polish it, you're like, hey, you wouldn't have done it any other way.
Exactly. So that for me was just, thank God, that was what I needed at the time. I needed to see somebody working what he described as layered animation, right? Where you could see the timing, and it was just more fun for me. It was more fun. And but again, as a young animator, I didn't understand it. I still animate this way, but I show specifically, but I animate one channel at a time.
Oh, wow.
So when I'm beginning animation, I literally, if you ever watch me animate, it's like, the character is going to jump across a room. And he
Wait, so you mean you work in one view?
No. What I mean by one channel is the way my brain works is I can, if I have reference or I see something, I can break it down into, it's the up and down, the left and right, the forward and
X,
back.
Y, and Z, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm if the character's bop, whoop, right? I'm okay, that's he's I usually the up and down is the thing.
You separate rotation too?
Yeah, it makes sense in my head, but it's a mix, right?
Yeah.
You pick up all these different workflows. But I used to break it down super, I had this...
granular.
Dude, I had this shot of this guy who ran and jumped on a wall and flipped and rolled. And if you see it, it's on my Vimeo somewhere. I did that literally. I broke down the way he flipped and split in like the way it rotated. But you know how your center of gravity changes while you're flipping?
Yeah.
I had to calculate actually
Center of mass.
because the controller in Maya controls the cog.
Mhm.
I had to look at the video and see that the cog isn't just perfectly arcing.
Right.
It's going up, down, and then I put that in first and put the left, right in. The torso is twisting. That's how I'd build it. So that's how I started to do. It took me a little longer to get to,
Yeah, that takes a long time to do it like
good
that.
good passes at the time.
Yeah,
But at my jobs, luckily, I'm like one of the fast animators of recent.
that's good.
Um,
You put in the time though. The time also helps with being fast. That
That's
people
true.
don't normally see. The extra hours, the
Well,
stuff like that.
yes and no.
Yeah.
So luckily, that's how I started doing that style animation. And at that time, I didn't have a sense of what blocking was. For me, at the time, I thought blocking was your IP, your in progress. Like, hey, I started the shot. This is my halfway. Give me feedback, and then I'll finish it. So my middle, because of the way I worked, was kind of always like, what am I looking at, right? But then at the end, it was like, oh, somehow it came together because I kind of knew what I was looking. But the problem there is that people couldn't give me feedback
Right.
at the time when I was
They
learning.
didn't know how far have you gone? How much more refining do you see?
Yeah, but because I
stuff
saw
like that.
Mike could do it, I was like, oh, he works the same way, so I'm good. Trust
Yeah.
me. And luckily, in the end, somehow the animations weren't too horrible. Right? If I look back, of course, I'm gonna cringe. But
That's always the case when you look back at your old stuff.
But then the Pixar animators in class taught me that blocking wasn't necessarily just your in progress. Blocking is your opportunity to sell your ideas.
Yeah, it's when you tell the story.
Yeah.
pretty
So
much.
when it's to me, the way I see blocking now is like when I have a shot and I have an idea, blocking is my way of communicating that to you with the least effort possible. It's like doing a sketch. It's just like, hey, I'm gonna draw this guy standing over here, and he's gonna flip over here, and I'm just doing stick figures. As long as I can communicate to you clearly exactly what details I want to communicate, or I'm gonna show you or execute, and you understand that, I've done my job.